Joining us now from London is Darya Dolzikova, who is an expert on the Iranian nuclear programme with the Royal United Services Institute. Darya, hi there. Thanks for joining us. What does Iran have?
Well, Iran has a very advanced nuclear program. The program is decently well mapped now, or at least large parts of it are. We know that they are enriching to fairly high levels. They're producing material that will go inside of a nuclear weapon. It's not quite at the level that it needs to be to go inside of a nuclear weapon, but it's not too far off. There have been some reports that they are engaging in activities that are relevant to weaponization should they decide to move towards the production of a nuclear weapon. However, the latest assessment from certainly US intelligence, as of even a few days ago, was that Iran had not made the decision yet to actually produce a nuclear weapon.
Which is interesting, given what Benjamin Netanyahu said in his statement this morning, that he said he believed it could be months away from doing it. Are you saying that the Americans do not think that's possible?
Well, so that's the latest intelligence assessment that the Americans had put out, that they didn't think that Iran had made the decision to actually weaponize. Now, there are a few things that need to be sort of talked about distinctly, I guess. There's the production of actual fissile material. So like I said, that's the material that would go inside of the core of a nuclear weapon. So that's enriched uranium. And Iran is, less than a week away from being able to produce enough material at a sufficient level for multiple nuclear weapons. Now, what you have to do to that material is then actually put it inside of a nuclear warhead and then mount that warhead on a delivery vehicle, most likely a missile. And that could take months. I've seen assessments that take it to well over a year. Those assessments are a little bit more fuzzy because we don't have as much information, at least in the public domain, around what kind of weapons relevant activities Iran might have been engaging in. So that timeline is a little bit blurrier from the outside.
Darya, what are the obvious, I guess, dangers of Israel striking these nuclear facilities?
Well, there's a few different concerns. I've had concerns raised over potential radioactive dispersal. It's unclear what facilities they actually targeted exactly. They mentioned Natanz. There's a couple of different sites there. Most likely, there's a low risk of radiological release. However, that's still something that we need to be aware of when we're looking at attacks on nuclear infrastructure. In terms of escalation of violence, that's certainly something that everyone will be looking to. Iran has previously reacted to attacks on its territory by counterstrikes against Israeli territory. So there's a reason why Israel is in a state of emergency. The risk of retaliation is very, very high, and I expect it will come. When and in what form is debatable. And then we also need to look at what Iran does vis-a-vis its nuclear program. It will take time to reconstitute, but I expect that Iran will move to reconstitute. And then we also run the risk of Iran potentially threatening to pull out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which is the treaty kind of underlying the whole international non-proliferation regime. And it's threatened to do that before.
Is it suspected that Iran has some secret facilities?
Well, not to sound trite, but we don't know what we don't know. Like I said, the Iranian nuclear program is decently well mapped, both because Iran has been subject to safeguards by the International Atomic Energy Agency. There have been some issues addressing past Iranian activities, but more or less we've had a fairly good picture of the types of activities that Iran's engaging in and where the facilities are. There's a decent understanding of the Iranian nuclear program by intelligence services, including by the US and the Israeli intelligence services. But again, we don't know what we don't know, and it is possible and probably likely that there are some perhaps smaller scale secret facilities that, again, at least in the public sphere, we weren't and aren't aware of.
The strikes, Israeli strikes, were also targeting people, and Iran has said a couple of its top scientists in the nuclear program have been killed. Does that make a huge difference in a nuclear program, the expertise, the knowledge that particular people have?
Yes, it can. Now, the nuclear program is consisted of a lot of scientists, of very many people, but Israel has targeted senior Iranian scientists attacks in the past. They had attacked and killed Fakhrizadeh years ago, who was the lead scientist previously on the Iranian nuclear program. So they do have a history of targeting and assassinating nuclear scientists. Again, these are very technically complex programs. So the expertise that a country has is really critical to being able to move ahead with it, yes.
Just one final question, Darya. Where else in the Middle East are there nuclear weapons?
So we know that Israel has nuclear weapons. They still maintain a posture of ambiguity, so they've not admitted to possessing nuclear weapons, but we do know that they have the capability.